We've all heard about dressing for success. When you walk into a room, what you wear makes a statement before you even open your mouth to speak. That might sound superficial, but it's true. After all, us humans are visual creatures. Hi, I'm 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗄𝗃, and although we all want to be judged by the content of our character and not by the skin or clothes we're in, our appearance is very important. The way we dress is an extension of our personalities and our mood. It also suggests how to treat us. Why are we talking about this on a podcast about business infrastructure and operations? Because knowing how to dress is directly tied to our ability or inability to perform. It also plays a role in whether we'll secure that large contract, attract the right investors, or be taken seriously as a leader. So, whether your dress code involves wearing a uniform, a suit, or jeans and a t-shirt, there's a time and a place for certain clothing, and you only get one chance to make a first impression. Why not make it count? As our guest today says, it's time to be seen for who you really are, not who you think you should be. This is Season 12, Episode 152. Let's start the show.
Welcome to Business Infrastructure, the podcast about curing back office blues of fast-growing businesses. If you're a business owner or operator looking for practical tips and solutions to scaling your business in a sustainable manner, you're in the right place. Now here's your hostess, 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝘀𝗀𝗃.
This season, we're tackling diversity and digital transformation and how they impact the way we operate our businesses. And joining me today to contribute to this discussion in New York City is Elsa Isaac, a prolific wardrobe fashion stylist. Elsa is the founder and CEO of Elsa Isaac and Company, and she's a guru at helping people look and feel their absolute best all the time. In fact, Elsa has styled celebrities like Lenny Kravitz, Brooke Shields, Marie Forleo, Katie Couric, 𝗕𝗲𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗧𝗏 𝗕𝗏𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗃, and even regular little folks like me. So Elsa, welcome to the show. I'm so glad we could make this interview happen. How are you today?
Oh my gosh. 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝗀𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗃, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be on the show. And you kind of caught me off guard with prolific. I was like, wait, who's she talking about?
I'm talking about you, my dear.
Ooh, that's a big word.
Yes, it is. And I wanted to make sure I used the right word that would capture attention. So looks like it worked.
Oh yeah. Thank you for that. I'm literally still I don't know if I live up to that word, but I appreciate the sentiment so much.
You definitely do. And, I was trying to think of, okay, how can we best kick off this discussion? Because there's so much to say, but I actually want to start with a disclaimer. I hate shopping, as you probably have learned so far working with me. I loathe it. I am definitely not a fashionable person. But I must say, in the short time that we've worked together so far, you've helped me. I still don't like shopping. That's why it's great to have you and your company. But you've helped me embrace the way that I look and to accept the way that I look and help me understand what types of clothing best complement me.
Yes.
And so, yes, and I was looking over your background, Elsa, and I knew this before, from when we first started working together. But for the benefit of those who are listening right now, you were born originally in Eritrea. And did I pronounce your country correctly?
You did. You did
okay,
great,
perfect. Yeah. Because my husband and I always debate over the correct way to pronounce Eritrea. Because years ago, I had a hairstylist actually when I lived in New Orleans who was from Eritrea. So that's how I first came to be introduced to the country next to Ethiopia, for those who aren't familiar. But then your family relocated to Canada when you were about 4 years old. And now, of course, you've been in New York for many, many years. At what point in your travels did you know that you wanted to become a stylist?
Not till late, actually. I didn't know what a stylist was until I was in university. We call it university in Canada, but
yes.
College, same thing. I had no idea. I knew I wanted to be in fashion. I thought I wanted to be a designer, and there's still, a bit of desire to do that at some point. But I just knew I loved playing with clothes and like dressing up my Barbie dolls. Like that was the more interesting, thing about playing with my Barbies, is that I got to dress them and buy them different clothing and create literally a wardrobe for them.
Mm-hmm.
I used to call up friends in elementary school and say, okay, we're going to have a competition. You show up to school in your best outfit and I'm going to do the same thing. And then we're going to have the class vote. It was so like, I'm like, who did I think I was? But that's how it started. And it wasn't until I was in college in my second year, and a friend of mine I was working part-time at a bank, and he worked there as well, but he was also in the music industry, came up to me and said, hey, we're doing a music video for so-and-so, and we want you to style it. And I was like, who's we? And I don't know what that is.
Oh,
like I do need to ask him this question. It's been years since we've talked, but why he like even thought of me, because I don't think I was particularly fashionable in terms of my own style. Like it's definitely been an evolution. And I was just in school for fashion. That's all he really knew. And so I was like, no, I'm not about to ruin your guys' project. Thank you for thinking of me, but no. And he just would not take no for an answer. And so I did it. I ended up styling 14 people that day. They walked me through it. They gave me a credit card. And at the end of that very long shoot day, I got a check and he said, I knew you could do it, Elsa. And that was the beginning. That's how I got introduced to styling.
Wow. When you were at university, what were you studying originally? And did you change majors once you realized that you had a knack and an aptitude for styling?
There was only like 2 fashion degree programs in Canada at that time. And the one I went to Toronto, and that particular one, it had 2 sections. So you could go into fashion design or fashion marketing. And in that first year, everyone does the same thing. And then you choose which specialty you want to go in the second year. And even though I wanted to be a designer, I didn't want to sew all day. I knew I could get people to sew samples for me. And so I did choose the fashion marketing. And it was a good thing that I did, because it taught me more about the stuff I didn't know, in terms of editorial and just like the business of fashion. But yeah, and then, I think just because my friend who really kind of forced me into styling, him and his company ended up hiring me for so many gigs after that it wasn't until I did it often enough, you're almost in denial. Like you're like, oh, okay, this is a cute thing that I can, I'm getting paid to do, and it's cool, and apparently I'm good at it. But it wasn't until maybe like I was about to finish up school and realize that, okay, this is a career and I could make this a living. And then, of course, I would say it wasn't until I moved to New York and really saw that the industry is just way bigger here.
Yes.
And so it wasn't until I really started working and assisting stylists here that I was like, oh, yeah, this is definitely, I believed that this could be a really, kind of worthwhile career. And so I just kept going.
And the great thing is you already had experience under your belt by the time you finished university and relocated to New York.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that was key. And I always tell, aspiring stylists, like how, if they want to break into the industry, assist as much as possible and just do as much work. Some of it will be, free. Some of it will be, very like minimal money, but I think it's really about the experience, because then you have, and now there's schools too, I will say, right? I didn't have that. There's schools where you can, graduate with a certificate in styling. But I personally don't think there's anything like real, like on-set real life experience to really understand the business.
Yeah. Yeah. As I was reflecting and preparing for our interview today, I thought about a very basic, very simple question. What does it mean to have style?
I love this question. No one asks me this.
Because I would just say, if I were asked that question, I'm like, well, I couldn't answer that question because I have no style. But what does it mean to have style? Does everybody have it? It's just a matter of identifying what it actually is.
Yes, exactly the latter. Everyone has style, and how I define, having personal style or having style is really about how well you know yourself first. And that changes often, right? We're constantly evolving. So really reassessing that as well every few years. But the starting point is get familiar with who you are, like what is your body shape? What types of colors are you drawn to? What kind of fabrics are you drawn to? What is your current aspiration? What are your dreams in life? Use all of these things to then realize that in your clothing. So what I do is I'm that middle person that goes out and looks for the clothing that is in alignment with all of those things.
Yes.
And that's really it. And it's really not about the clothes. I always say this, it's really not about the clothes, but it's about how can you show up as the best version of yourself in this moment using clothes, because we are connected to our outer bodies as much as we are to our inner selves. And so how we adorn that outer body is very energetically linked to who we are.
Wow. Who knew that clothes could do that for you?
Yes.
But I must say, I have a funny story I want to share with you, Elsa.
Please.
And I don't think that I mentioned it to you previously during some times that we've been working together. But this happened maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. I have a watch that was being repaired at a store inside of a mall that is not a high-end mall. It's a mall, and you've been to Atlanta, so you're familiar with, I guess, the SWAT. It's known as SWATs, like Southwest Atlanta. So it's in a kind of a sketchy area right now that's actually being revitalized. But most of the stores inside of this mall are sneakers and like fast fashion type clothing, like things that people might wear like to a club or something like that. Okay. So there's this watch repair place in there. And I happened to drop my watch off there really because it was out of convenience. So the day that I went to pick up my watch, I had just left a business networking event. So I was in a suit. And as I parked my car, got out of, and started walking through the parking lot, approaching the entrance to the mall, it was as though I was an alien that was green in color and had like 3 heads because everybody stopped and stared. And I was like, okay. So when I get inside of the mall, same thing. But then once I actually got inside of the jewelry repair shop, the owner was assisting another customer and he kept looking up at me, and then he looked down at the customer, and then he looked back up at me, and that went on for several times. And then finally he asked, are you here to conduct an audit? And I said, no, I'm a customer. And he said, oh, okay, good. I mean, I see you're in a suit, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, who knew that a suit, I guess, depending on the environment that you're in, the statement that it made. And it's funny because I have a friend, my friend 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀. She and I used to jokingly always refer to our business clothing as our superhero costumes.
Yes.
So it's not a power suit, but our superhero costumes. So it never really clicked until that incident happened, just how powerful a statement you can make without even opening your mouth, just from the clothing that you have on. So all of that to say, I noticed this quote on your website, Elsa. I love clothes, but hate the fashion industry. Please explain that. And what do you think of that story that I shared with you?
Yeah, I think that is such a powerful, visual, explanation, because we as humans, and there's several studies at this point done about how what we wear does impact and communicate. It's almost one of the biggest communicators at the beginning, because we only have a first one time to make a first impression, and we all have about 7 seconds, right, before we make that judgment call about who we think the person is. And I know there are some people of the mind who kind of disregard it, almost think it's too superficial. We shouldn't care about how we dress, but it's more about yourself. It's not really about other people first, So it's a form of how we take in information, and to ourselves first. So the reason why so many clients who are at this kind of crossroads come to me is because they've gone through all this self-development work on themselves on the inside. And then when they're looking at themselves in the mirror, they're realizing that what that is communicating is nowhere near in alignment with how they feel. And so you are the first person that needs to feel that, right? Like to receive that message of, oh, I'm wearing something that I feel, like you said, is my superhero outfit for all these different scenarios in my life, right? For my work from home lifestyle, for my speaking engagement lifestyle. So having a superhero wardrobe for each of these really just is, first of all, makes you feel like you are showing up as the person you are today, which of course, then I feel like makes your message resonate even more to the audience you're speaking to, but also for yourself to be able to give yourself the confidence of, this is my journey and this is who I am right now. And this is how I want to show up in this moment and in this life. And in terms of the industry, hate might be a little strong word, but I just say that to say, because I feel like there's so many aspects of the industry that miss the mark in terms of the fashion industry. I feel like they're getting better. There's definitely certain brands that are getting better, but they definitely weren't diverse enough. They weren't inclusive enough of different body shapes and more dictating like a singular type of body, a specific type of woman. And that was what I grew up viewing as the standard of beauty. And I subconsciously, you absorb that. And sometimes, I feel like there was a deprogramming I had to go through to be able to be good at what I do for personal style on the personal styling level, because I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel like I was, quote unquote, the type of beautiful that is mainstream, I guess. And then It wasn't until I had to break away and really be real with myself and say, you don't have to be a part of this industry to do your work and to be a stylist and to you know what I mean? Like, I had to really understand that I can still be a stylist and use that tool, meaning clothes, to make an even bigger impact that empowers so many of us to really own our beauty, because we are beautiful. They just don't really, that's not their message. And so I just kind of had to disconnect with the industry and say, I'm going rogue. I'm going rogue and I'm doing this my way.
I think it's so interesting. You just mentioned a very interesting angle to this conversation around diversity, and that is that the angle of body shape. But I'm also wondering, Elsa, and I think I know what your answer is going to be to this, but is it possible that something like our wardrobe, the way we dress, the clothing that we select, the colors that we choose to wear, somehow assist in overcoming stereotypes in the workplace?
I think it just by promoting individualism, then you are, and I think part of, if we're getting, political in the sense of like racism, I think part of why one of the issues is not being able to relate or understand where other people are coming from. And it's because we feel like we all have to conform to this one way of dressing, and the workplace was the biggest place where that was, kind of enforced, right? Like, it's obviously gotten better and more lax over the years recently, but like, okay, suits for both men and women in really corporate settings, and, length of skirts had to be this up to here and not shorter than this. So we were told how to show up, and we are denying the individuality of people to come through. And I think it's in this diversity of, who we are and being able to ask questions, so like, let's say, you were at a speaking event, Alicia, and you were wearing this outfit that, had a specific, really one of a kind piece. People will come up to you and say, so I've never seen anything like this. Like, what does it represent? Perhaps it represents something from your lineage. Like, that opens up the door to have real conversations and find out where people come from and what they're, and I say this because I love Eritrean dresses. And that was my whole, like, when I do design a collection, it'll be based on the embroidered fabric that we use in Eritrea and Ethiopia. And I want that to be a conversational piece, because I'm so proud of where I come from. And there's so much history in that the only way people will know about it is to share it.
Yes.
Right. And when you're not allowed to show up as an individual, then how can you know? And then therefore what we don't know, we fear. And that's, I think, doesn't help unify us at all.
Yes. And I guess also clothing could also be used to communicate the wrong message as well. So for example, in the tech industry, right? They're known for wearing t-shirts and jeans to work. But if you are an executive or the owner of your own company and you have a consulting service that is not in the tech space, that could be frowned upon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's versions of that, like appropriateness in terms of like setting and context is a big part of what to wear when. And I think within that becomes easier to navigate once you have a clear direction for your personal style. Mm-hmm. Your personal style should still come through in any, kind of setting. And that changes, right? Like how we would dress to go to a park, a picnic in the park is not going to be the same maybe dress to meet a client.
Sure.
So I think that plays a big role in that.
That's a really important point about setting and context. I like the way you brought that back to the fact that even if, let's say, if you are invited to an after 5 event where people are expected to, women are expected to wear maybe ball gowns and men tuxedos, you can still bring your individual style to that quote unquote dress code.
Absolutely.
I love how you tied those things back together. One thing that struck me right away, Elsa, and I must tell people how we met. So we connected on LinkedIn. Right. And when I saw what you did, I was like, oh my gosh, how did she know that I need her right now in my life? Like right now, because at the time when we first met, I was preparing to give a TED Talk. And I know the importance of when you're on that stage, all eyes are on you. But not only that, it's not that it's just an event where people who are in attendance are the only people who will see you. But it's also with the knowledge that it's going to be recorded, uploaded and onto the internet, and it will live there forever. So you have to get it right. And so what struck me when I reached out to you, and I was like, hey, Elsa, I really need your help. I have this TED Talk coming up and I have to nail the look. I have the speech down, but I need to nail the actual, the look. So what struck me was the fact that we were able to work together 100% remotely. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. You're in New York City. So we're both on the eastern coast of the United States, but, we're not, I'm on the very southern tip of the country and you're toward the very northern tip. So we're not close to each other, in terms of geographical proximity.
Right.
And I was like, how is she going to do this? Because she can't be here to physically measure me, to actually talk to me. But the way you pulled it off is absolutely brilliant. I'm wondering, did you have a remote version of your service offering, which was, for me, I had the virtual fitting, virtual styling services. Did you have that in place prior to the pandemic, or was it brought on as a result of the pandemic?
I was definitely doing virtual styling before the pandemic for a few years. And that was thanks to a photographer who is a traveling photographer. So she had a lot of she would be in Paris and London and all over the US. And so that was the catalyst for me to do virtual, because she kind of was like, girl, you have to people need this service who aren't in New York, right? And I was like, okay. And me, I'm a true artist. I was like, but right? Like I literally had a long list of buts, like how I won't be able to touch them and like all the reasons. But she was like, the outcome is the same. Do this now, you know? And so it was running for a few years. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 prior to the pandemic. So that was thankfully that was in place. But we did definitely use the pandemic 2020 to refine those systems and bring in different types of systems to help make that run even more, like just more efficiently. And so that was the focus for, because sometimes, you know, you get into that excuse of like, but I'm too busy to look at this right now. So it was almost like the perfect excuse, the perfect time to be like, okay. And I will say that mainly happened because I had brought on an online business manager who is incredible. And this is literally how her brain thinks. And so it was really easy once she was on, I hired her a few months before the pandemic. So she had a few months to take in how my business works and how I deliver my services. And then she was able to suggest different platforms to be able to really just deliver in a way. And you know this, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, as you've built a business, you can't have everything at once in terms of refining. And so one of the things that really bothered me about the virtual aspect was that I wanted to have that high-end feel because what I do is so personal and, you know, intimate. And, you know, I had to kind of forego that until I had the bandwidth, i.e. the online business manager, to come in and like help me with that because I couldn't deliver the service and kind of focus on a category of, or I should say a portion of my business that I had no skill set in, to be honest with you. And so that was what we did in 2020. And it's been really incredible because it's allowed us to, and what's crazy is I feel like now there's even more people that I'm working with virtually as a result. So it's been an incredible evolution.
And I hope that your story serves as inspiration for anyone who's listening who may be thinking, nope, we have to be in person. We have to be face to face. But thankfully for you, you had that foresight and because of your photographer friend, you started putting some of those things in place ahead of time. And so that way, when you had to go maybe full throttle with it, you already had a foundation in place. And to your point, it was just a matter of tweaking it and taking it to that next level once you got your online business manager in place. And speaking of digital transformation, I would love if you could share with us your virtual styling process. Again, I think if nothing else, for it to serve as inspiration for someone who may be listening, again, thinking, well, I always deliver my products and services face to face in person, but you can challenge yourself to think about how you can go through your own transformational process with your operations by digitizing. And by the way, I forgot to ask this earlier, but who is your ideal client?
Great question. So I work with mainly women, although a lot of men have been reaching out lately, which I love because I actually got my start working with men. That first video shoot I told you about. He was a male artist and his whole band, I believe, was men. There were extras that were women, but I got my start mainly working with men. But I have now niched down to women professionals and entrepreneurs who have reached a certain level of success in their business, and they finally have the bandwidth and the resources to really align their outer self with their inner self and create that alignment and be able to really create even more impact with the work that they do in the world.
So thank you for sharing that. So getting back to this behind the scenes look at your process. So I'd like to talk about it from a business infrastructure perspective. And for those of you who might be listening to this show for the first time, business infrastructure is an operations system for linking your people, your processes, and your tools and technologies to ensure that growth happens in a profitable and sustainable way. I'm going to use myself as the guinea pig here, Elsa. So again, I had a TEDx talk coming up, which didn't happen, but that's another story. That's another story because
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Might be another podcast.
Yes, it looks like we have two very strong backup possibilities. But suffice it to say, yes, but suffice it to say, we reached, we started working together. And can you, at that point, kind of walk everyone through what happened next?
Sure. So after we decided we were a good fit and we're ready to move forward in the styling process and experience, we process payments and just customer client information through a system called 𝗕𝗓𝘀. So it's a business platform and it really is all in one. It was something we actually found just before the pandemic, I believe January of 2020, because we were kind of piecemealing it. We had one system to do our newsletters. We had another system to process payment and invoicing, and we had another system to do lead pages. So this is literally all in one. And what's great about them is they're kind of like a boutique team. So you may suggest a feature be implemented, and oftentimes within the week they've done it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're incredible. So that was really helpful. And of course, having the payment processor also be really unified and simplified so that once a client is ready to purchase, they click the purchase now button and it processes the payment in whatever form they want to pay. And then we have emails set up, ready to go. So you would have received, here's your next steps to get started. And that's where I include links to a questionnaire, which is also hosted through 𝗕𝗓𝘀, and also how to create a Pinterest board. So really you're getting started right away. This is what I call the style pre-work. Once you submit that, you can schedule the call that goes along with us reviewing your style pre-work. And that's done through 𝗕𝗂𝘀. So once you schedule that call, it's 𝗕𝗂𝘀, and 𝗕𝗂𝘀 is it just has such a wide, it's just really robust, in terms of appointments and keeping, and the ability to integrate as well. So we've been using 𝗕𝗂𝘀 for a while and we just kind of stuck with it because of its robustness. And then, Zoom is how everyone meets at this point. I know that there's the Microsoft version, but I don't know if we talked about this, but I'm not sure how Skype missed the mark, because Skype was already
I know. Isn't it crazy?
It's insane.
You know what I think it is, Elsa? It kind of speaks to what you were just talking about with integrations. This is my personal belief. I could be completely off here, but I think the reason Zoom just kind of jumped light years ahead of everyone else, to your point, who were already in existence long before Zoom, I think it's because Zoom makes it, they play nicely with so many other applications.
Very true.
For example, with Acuity and Zoom, it's just a matter of clicking a button and bam, they're connected now.
Yep.
When I received an automated email, which your emails are crafted brilliantly because it really seems like you were talking to me my entire experience throughout the process of working with you. I truly felt like I was the only client that you had. And I know it's not true. No, seriously. I really felt that way.
The only, if I never receive a compliment again, that is everything to me, because like I said, one of the things I think that makes me really good at what I do is I'm just a big baby. I have this big heart, and I can empathize with anybody and everybody. And I know how personal this relationship is. And to be able to trust someone with something so personal right off one conversation, and then you're literally stripping down layers. And so that was always the heart of the business for me, is I want to be able to communicate to the individual feelings of every client, because it's more than just a client relationship. And so that means a lot that came across, because that is 100% the goal.
It definitely did. The way the emails are crafted, the language that you're using. Whenever you work with Elsa, get used to being called beautiful.
Yes.
Yep. It just makes you feel so great, especially after you've had a long day working and you just kind of feel beat up, and to read something like that, it always brought a smile to my face. Now, there's something else that you missed that I thought was also, it just went such a long way in making me feel
Oh,
special. The flowers.
yes,
Elsa
yes.
sends you flower, and I don't mean just like one or two roses. I mean there's a beautiful large bouquet of flowers delivered to you, totally unexpected. Maybe oops, did I ruin the surprise for people who may not have worked
No,
with you
no,
before? Okay.
no. I post on Instagram too about them. So not at all.
Okay, perfect. But it's such a nice touch, and it's so unexpected, because I think
Yeah.
for most of us, we would expect something like that maybe, after our work together is complete, usually some type of a thank you card or something like that. But no, you sent a bouquet of flowers from the very beginning. It was like, oh, wow.
I love that you just mentioned that the beginning instead of the end, because we did used to do it at the end. And
Ah,
I had a client who was a friend, we knew each other, who signed up, and I knew, maybe this might have been 2 years ago, I knew she was really nervous about the investment.
mm,
And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to send her the flowers now, because I want, especially, really all women, but especially as women of color, we don't often get to do things like this for ourselves.
right.
There's just this like, just we grow up a bit differently in terms of like where our resources go.
Hmm.
And so I really wanted to let her know that this was a good thing, and
Hmm.
she will be taken care of. And so we did it at the beginning. And then after that, we started doing it at the beginning for all clients. And I think it does do something to kind of ease any apprehension, if there still is, at that beginning stage.
It's a brilliant strategy and a brilliant part of your process. So, and I'm sorry for interrupting, because you were on a roll describing your process. And again, everything, as you listen to Elsa describe her process, keep in mind all of this is automated. But
Yes.
in order to reach that level of automation, there was, I'm sure, a considerable amount of work in crafting every single email response and putting together the questionnaire. You also have a body shape calculator. I mean, all of those things take time to think through, put together, and then string together into a workflow that is completely 100% automated. So please continue.
Yes. And just to piggyback off what you said, like this didn't happen overnight. So for anyone who is considering doing a digital delivery of what
Mhm.
you do, it's important to just get started, and you will figure it out as you go along. Because, and this is the reality of life as well. You don't know what's missing until someone points it out, or until, like, unfortunately or fortunately, a mistake happens.
Right.
All of those have informed how we have the system we have now, and it's not perfect. We're always looking to kind of streamline it even more, but don't let that deter you, because I know that I was in my head about that a lot. Like, if it's not perfect, then
Mm.
I don't want to like ruin how someone may feel along the process. But really, you're more in your head about it than a client coming in. And most people are really understanding when a mistake happens, especially, system wise. I mean, how Zoom is down. No one's like, well, maybe some people are, but like we're still back on Zoom. Wasn't there a day where Zoom was like down or something?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So I think like just to just move forward and continue to note every part of your process, so you can figure out and create a plan on how to systemize it.
Mhm.
So I think we were at the point where we book a call through using Acuity and then using Zoom to meet. And then in terms of shopping, when I start shopping, I'm just kind of obviously on the internet, and just using online retailers, deciding which online retailers are a best fit for you, and then creating carts for you if you don't already have them, and then sending an email once the carts are ready, which is a template that says, here are your carts, here's how to log in, here's all the information that you'll need. When you're done with the carts and you purchase them, please book again on Acuity on our fitting. Yeah.
can I say something? Okay, sorry. I just have to add some specifics here from my personal experience. So what was also very easy for me, and it let me know, like, okay, Elsa knows I hate shopping. So when I first heard putting together a shopping cart, I was like, no, I can't do that. It's going to take up so much time. But here's the beautiful thing. So when Elsa has you put together a Pinterest board, you literally are looking for ideas for things that you might be interested in from a clothing perspective. So if there's certain types of suits, for men, or dresses, pants, shirts, whatever the case may be, you build out your Pinterest board, and then Elsa then goes and creates these accounts for you. So, for example, I think Nordstrom and Dillard's and oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the other,
Neiman?
Zara.
Zara.
Yes, those were. So she was like, "What accounts do you have, 𝗕𝘂𝗀?" And I was like, "Elsa, again, I hate shopping, so there are no accounts, my friend." But she created them for me. And literally all I had to do, once she let me know that the shopping carts were ready, meaning she had already saw some different items, placed those items into a shopping cart, it was literally just a matter of me logging into each of those accounts and pressing ship, and then providing all of the payment information and shipping address and things like that. But it literally took, if 5 minutes. So that again made me feel so much better, because I did panic thinking I was going to have to go in and literally add each item to the cart one by one. And I was like, oh my gosh, shoot me now. So I just had to add that you and your team put in a lot of work, again, behind the scenes, just in making it as simple as the client, myself, going in, logging in, pressing buy or click or, close cart, whatever the button says, and just completing the transaction.
Yeah, when I say you will not be shopping at all, you will not be shopping at
And
all.
she's not exaggerating. You will not have to shop yourself, which is a beautiful thing for those of us who don't enjoy it and just don't have the time for it.
Yeah, it's a whole layer. It's a whole expertise. So yeah, then once 𝗕𝗂𝗀 checked out, she booked. We might have actually had a conversation about pre-booking her fitting date, actually, which I do because she had a pressing deadline. And then we have 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, which sends reminders, and we like to do, I believe, 3 reminders just so. And there's reminders, I will say, for this. So now 𝗕𝗂𝗀 has made the purchases. She's waiting on her shipments to arrive. The appointment reminders also have copy around what she should do once she receives her packages, and to not try anything on, ideally, before our fitting. So we can look at it together, right? Because oftentimes I'm looking at your body language when you first try something on, as it's data for me to determine whether or not you like something or are uncomfortable in something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's helpful to get that initial reaction. And then, so how to unpack the clothes. And then also, we also include in that, when I finished 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's carts, we include how long she has to return to each store, so that she doesn't miss the window to return clothing that we have said no to. So then we meet up on Zoom again for our fitting, and she's basically my Barbie doll, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking it back to when I was a kid. And I get to play dress up, which is, for me, the highlight of where the magic happens. And we do that. There's different times depending on the package you order. And then after our fitting is complete, I take notes and provide 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 with a fitting recap, which essentially closes out our time together. It lists everything, that all the outfits that we created, all the pieces she'll be returning, any tailoring notes that we talked about, shoe and accessory pairings. And we also use a styling app called 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. So all of the items that 𝗕𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and I have had said yes to and built outfits around are created on she basically has her own mini style site, and where we create style boards for the looks that we did create together, And we like to also do additional looks using those same pieces so that she has other options to try when she's looking for more outfits. So what's great about 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝘀 is it stores all of the purchased items so that I have inventory records, and 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 has inventory records of where that dress came from, what size it was in, what color. Maybe she wants to re-up in another color in in a few months' time. So it's basically a mini style site that stores all of the information of the items that were purchased and how to style them.
It was such a phenomenal experience, very easy. And I always felt as though I knew what the next step was. I never felt as though, no, that's why I was like, Elsa, please come onto the show and share your process because it's so well executed. It really is. And as a client, I took comfort in knowing, okay, so now Elsa is going to do this next. It's not only what you would tell me whenever we had one of those Zoom sessions, but it's also through the frequent communication by way of those automated emails. So even though we weren't, even though we weren't able to, we didn't always actually talk to each other, I still knew what was going on. And if I ever had a question, someone on your team was on it right away responding. So it's just so well executed. And darn it, we're running out of time because I wanted to ask you about, the importance of color and understanding what colors you should wear. But we just, I know we don't have time to go there, but I do want to make sure that we kind of recap some of the resources that you've shared with us. And please, if there are any additional ones, please, by all means, share that with us. So you mentioned the 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 app. We talked about Zoom. I know that you also use Loom, which is also really helpful.
Oh, Lisa, you're the best. Yes, I forgot about Loom. So when I send cards to my clients, to Alicia, I always do a quick video to kind of let them know why there's so many items in the cart and what the goal is. And then also what to expect in terms of timeline for each store and how many items there are in each cart, and to not, that there may be one or two items that might go out of stock, and that just basically to let them get a feel of the carts before they actually log into the carts.
Mm-hmm. And that too, again, we weren't actually a live Zoom session, but just the fact that I could see Elsa on video. And it felt as though the video was created just for me,
that one definitely
was. That one was.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it didn't take you long to produce it, right? You just...
No, it's a couple minutes, and I do it because I know that that's a big step, right? That those purchases, even if the majority of them are being returned, but that's still emotionally, mentally, that's a big thing to be purchasing all those garments just to try on. Right.
Yes, agreed. So you also talked about 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, which is your appointment setting tool. We also use 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 here on the podcast to book interviews. You also talked about 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 for processing payments. But I would love for you, if you have a few minutes, if we could talk about your body shape calculator and your Beautiful Style Academy.
I would love to. And I must say that the calculator was my first tool that I created. So back 2010, I want to say, when I realized I wanted to venture into personal styling, I kept really just trying to figure out what was the foundation of most challenges for women. And it's our bodies for us. And I think we guess a lot about what our shape is, our body shape is. And so I wanted to create a tool that gave you concrete information on the silhouette of your body, but make it fun. I know I didn't want to be referred to as a pear or an apple or whatever. And so I gave my body shape names of celebrities that were famous for those silhouettes. Now, it doesn't mean that you have the exact body frame as the celebrity, but it's just really a fun way to refer to your body. Like, I'm the J-Lo. And that was something I had to team up with a developer because, like I said, I am not a tech person, or, I'm just not that minded. But it was awesome to kind of come up with the math to be able to just simplify and make it fun and not be so, a lot of us don't like to look at that or even want to know the numbers, but knowing the numbers makes selecting clothing so much easier. So it was, yes, this is going to be a style membership that we are launching in June. And this is yet another way to be able to get people started on their style journey and, create a community around that, to have ongoing support, because it's not a one and done thing. It's something that takes time. And once you have the tools and the foundational support and information and data to start that journey, being able to do that in a group is always encouraging, because, a lot of us have the same or similar challenges. And so I just want to be able to, and I meant to say this earlier, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, you said, for those who are, struggling with the idea of transferring their business to be delivered digitally, what really made me do it also was like knowing, one of my clients said this a lot, like if you are not doing everything you can to put your expertise on what you do best in the world, you are robbing and stealing from people, because people need what you do. And so that's really what this is trying to deliver what I do to as many people that need it as possible.
Well, you're doing a phenomenal job. You really are. One more quick thing to plug before we really do wrap up here. And that is what not to wear to your next photo/video shoot guide. That's a free guide, right? That people can sign up for on your website. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I have been on a million photo shoot sets. And if it's one thing, most of my clients often come to me when there's some type of photo or video shoot project that they have coming up. And so this was an easy way to at least, because the possibilities of what to wear can be endless, but it's really easy to kind of pinpoint what not to wear. And so I wanted to be able to give that foundational resource to people who are planning or have an upcoming photo or video shoot, because it can be daunting. And, what we wear in real life doesn't translate most of the time to what we wear on screen. And so this was just a free resource to help mitigate some of the mistakes some of us make when we're about to be on camera.
So I definitely encourage everyone to go to Elsa's website, which is 𝗟𝗲𝘁.com. And that's ELSAISAAC.com. Maybe you should add me to the payroll, Elsa.
I think I might. I mean, we are hiring, so.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to work with you?
𝗟𝗲𝘁.com is my website, and there's a contact form there, or you can just email us directly at info@𝗟𝗲𝘁.com. Lisa will probably be the person who answers your email a lot faster than me. And that's another thing. Hire people who are incredible at their job and their expertise. So that's where I can be found at.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so just to quickly recap, because I know we really do have to wrap up, but just to quickly recap some of the things that you shared with us, Elsa, about diversity and digital transformation, all as it relates to fashion and dressing for success. You did a great job in kind of giving us some background and context about how you were first introduced to fashion and how with that first video shoot that you were asked to dress people up for, how it really just kind of took off from there. And thank goodness you did accept the opportunity to actually dress or style the people who were on that video shoot, because we would not be able to experience you and all of your magic today if it weren't for that experience, probably. But I loved when you said that, and when asked the question, what exactly does it mean to have style, or what is style? And you said that everyone has style, and that style is all about how well you know yourself first and foremost. Get familiar with who you are. What colors are you attracted to? What fabrics? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? And do those things align together? And you help people. You simply use clothes as a tool, which I thought it was so interesting that you describe clothing in that way. It's just a tool to make sure that all of those different factors are in perfect alignment, and that you communicate the confidence that you know you have in your particular craft, which is so important for us as leaders and owners of our businesses. I also love the angle that you took with diversity in terms of body shape. I didn't even think about that as I was preparing for this interview, but and talking about it and the fact that you broke out of the traditional fashion industry in that regard and really help your clients to embrace the uniqueness and the individuality of our respective body shapes, and this feeling that we all feel this need to conform. But I also thought it was brilliant when you said setting and context are important, but you can still bring your personal style to that setting and context. So whether you're at a formal event like the Oscars versus, you're going to a TEDx event, whatever the case may be, you can still bring your personal style while still adhering to a dress code that may be enforced. Oh my gosh, there's so much more to say. Make sure, I know, but make sure you go and check out 𝗟𝗲𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀com. Again, 𝗟𝗲𝗁�isaac.com. You'll learn more information about Elsa. She has an amazing portfolio. So all of those celebrities we were talking about at the very beginning of the show, in addition to other clients, other high-profile men and women, you can see it all there on the online portfolio. Again, that's at 𝗟𝗲𝗁�isaac.com. Elsa, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia. You're incredible. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. Now, don't forget, everyone, go check out businessinfrastructure.tv. That's where you'll be able to get links to all of these resources that Elsa shared. So Loom, Acuity, all of these things that you may have heard her talk about that you aren't familiar with. The best place to go and get a quick list of all of those resources, as well as links to actually sign up for these resources, is businessinfrastructure.tv. And when you're there, just simply click on that magnifying or search icon at the top of the screen, type in Elsa's name, or you can search for her by season 12, and you will find this information. You'll also find information about our sponsors. Supporting them helps us keep this show free for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a loyal subscriber. Remember, stay focused, be encouraged. This entrepreneurial journey is a marathon and not a sprint. Until the next time.
Thank you for listening to Business Infrastructure, the podcast about curing back office blues with 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀😂 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. If you like what you've heard, do us a favor and subscribe, leave a rating and review, and more importantly, share with your colleagues and team members who could benefit from the information. Join us next week for another episode of Business Infrastructure with 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀